And Mike is the founder of the Direct Farm Marketing. With 15 years of experience in digital marketing and as a small farm owner himself, Mike understands the ins and outs of connecting agriculture producers and consumers. He specializes in helping farmers and ranchers generate revenue through diversification with direct-to-market sales. Having assisted farmers and ranchers nationwide, Mike is dedicated to empowering producers in the direct-to-consumer arena. Join him as he shares his personal thoughts on seizing opportunities in the direct-to-consumer sales and essential attributes for success in today's market. Please give him a nice welcome. I don't think Mike was born and raised on a ranch, but he has come to us, and he has a very interesting story. Come on up here, Mike. We appreciate you coming to convention.
Thank you, Shad. I appreciate it. That was great. Thank you so much. All right. As of July 2023, China owns 384,000 acres of American agricultural land. That's a 30% increase just since 2019. And surprisingly, they come in 18th place on the list of foreign countries that own American farmland. Between 2017 and 2022, the number of farms in the U.S. has declined by 141,733 farms, or 7%. And according to a 2022 census of agriculture, the average age of a U.S. farmer is 58 years old. Only 30% of family farms ever make it past the second generation. And only 12% of second generation farms make it past the third generation. And of those farms, only 3% make it past 4 generations. Independent beef producers are under attack in this country. Would you raise a hand with me if you agree with that statement today? And that's why I'm here today, to talk to you guys about the opportunity you have in selling direct. In the next 45 minutes, I want to talk to you about how you can reach the right customers and sell to them at a profitable price point that's not dictated by the market manipulators, at a price that you can establish so that you can decouple yourself from the cattle market. My name is Mike Parker, and welcome to my presentation, Cut Out the Middleman. I want to thank you guys all for being here today. It means a lot to me. It's very encouraging to see you all here today standing up for this industry and the great things that I've heard from this podium today about faith, family, freedom, and all the things and values that we all hold dear. I want to thank Shad and Jaden. I had mentioned I'd come on the podcast, and RCAF for having me here at this convention to get to talk to you guys today. So I want to talk a little bit about what you guys can expect from me. I'm going to be talking about a lot of familiar principles, marketing principles and concepts that you may have heard of today, but in a little bit of a different spin to give you something that you can actually take home and actually put into play for your operation. So we're not going to be covering the ins and outs of the cattle industry. That's not my area of expertise. We've had a lot of great speakers today talk about the ins and outs of the industry, different things happening, going on in the industry. But the main thing I want you guys to get today is a core mindset shift. And that core mindset shift, I'm actually going to present to you as a slogan on the next slide. I'm going to ask you guys to repeat it after me. Now, I know a lot of you may produce for big ag, but that's something that maybe we unknowing or unwillingly had to do to keep the legacy alive for the ranch that we have, okay? So this slogan's going to get us to start to think like an independent business owner. So if you guys would, please repeat this after me. I am an independent business owner, not a big ag producer. Let's try it one more time. You guys read this with me. I'm an independent business owner, not a big ag producer. Thank you guys so much. So the question becomes, how did we get to where we are in the industry today? As a society, we demanded convenience. We wanted food when we wanted it quickly. And the corporate conglomerates took advantage of that, and they gave us that, but they compromised the quality of our food for their profit margins. And what were the results of that? Big Ag was created. They monopolized the market and conditioned us to feel dependent on them. In a lot of ways, we've become dependent on them. But they made a mistake. They poked the bear, and now millions of Americans don't trust the food that they eat. They want to buy from someone that they trust, and they want to buy from you. They want to know you. They want to know the people that they buy their food from. They don't trust. They feel really second-handed by the big corporations out there. So it's not that people won't pay a premium price for your beef, it's that they can't find you. There are people out there every day looking for the people in this room. If anyone can impact this industry, it's you guys sitting here today, and that's what we're going to be covering, is ways that you can innovate in this marketplace and different strategies you can use to get yourself in front of the right people that are ready to buy from you. Now, Peter Drucker was an American that helped a lot. He helped innovate a lot of the business industry in America, and he said all business is innovation and marketing. He broke it down to that. And I would add to that all business is innovation and marketing and the ability to learn new skills. So we're going to talk about some things today, like I said, that might be new to you, might sound like things you'd heard, but with a new, fresh twist and perspective. So I want to pause for just a second. If you guys have ever been to a convention like this, heard a speaker like this, you got excited, maybe you learned some new things, you started taking some notes, you were really ready to get home and apply these things to your operation. When you got there, you got busy, you started working on all the things going on in the ranch, and you didn't end up applying all the things that you wanted to apply. I know I've done this before, going to a convention. If you would, raise your hand if you've ever been guilty of doing something like that. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And that's really what this is about. It's about taking ownership in your operation, taking ownership about learning the new skills that can help you be innovative in this marketplace and prepare you for the things that are coming that are going to change. We heard Alex did a great job in his presentation talking about the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. There are changes. There is a war going on. And if we can be innovative and learn new skills, it's going to go a long way. So thank you guys for that. Now, I want to go back to the podcast when I was on there with Shad. We had some really great conversations on the RCAF Roundup podcast. I'll give me just a second here. We got to talk a little bit about, Shad started sharing a story with me about his mom. And he could actually remember that his mom had sold eggs and cream and beef off the farm to actually pay for their way of life. That's one generation ago for him. I'm sure you guys can remember in this room 1, 2, 3 generations ago when that's the way that you did things. Everything you grew, you produced, you sold locally. It reminded me of when I started growing food and selling food direct to consumer that my wife's grandfather told me. I remember when things were that way. And it's amazing that when Christ walked the earth 2,000 years ago, everything was that way. It's really just the last 50 years, 60 years, that things have changed. I mean, if you think about the Old Testament in the book of Job, the Bible described Job's wealth through the livestock that he owned. And in defining his wealth as the wealthiest man of his generation, the Bible went on to talk about the livestock that he had, how much of it he had, the different types of livestock he had. And for all of mankind, the ones that had livestock and produced food were the wealthiest. And now the wealthiest, the ones that are lining their pockets in the industry, are the ones that don't actually produce any food. And so we found ourselves in an environment where the independent producers have a hard time finding those margins. About 12 years ago, this is a quote from Shad that I wanted to share with you guys. I thought he actually, these were his words, I thought he did a great job explaining where we are in the industry. So I'll read them to you guys. It came to be because it was all about keeping our land, making a profit, and doing the best that we could because we were struggling, especially after we lost the prosperity of the 50s, the 60s, the late 70s, and the 80s were just crap, right? And so we had to figure out how were we going to keep our land. Well, we got bigger. It was all about the numbers, and with that, we lost the relationship. And Shad had said something that Maybe it was unknowing or unwillingly that we actually played into the hands of Big Ag and we lost that relationship. Thank you for putting that together so well. About 12 years ago, during this time of year, I found myself pressure washing a house for the first business that I had ever started. It was hot. It was in Atlanta. I'm from the Atlanta area. We're talking heat, shirt sticking to your body kind of heat. And it was just a couple weeks before this that I had finished filing my LLC. I got my business cards. I got things ready. I wanted this business to succeed, right? I went out. I was passing out door hangers, passing out business cards, doing everything I felt like I needed to do to generate leads for this new business that I had started. And so several weeks before this, I posted on Facebook. I shared with friends and families what it is that I was doing. I tried to get my services out there, and that generated some leads for me. I got some people to let me come wash their house, be my first guinea pigs. Got those first jobs out of the way, and then the leads started to dry up on me. And, you know, my question for you guys, have you ever been in a spot where maybe you started something and it ended up being a little harder than you expected it to be? Can I get a thumbs up for you guys if you've ever been in that spot? I know we all have. Thank you guys for that. And so in this moment, I found myself washing this house, and I'll tell you something happened on this job that I'll never forget. But the weeks leading up to this was the one job I'd had on my schedule. And I was nervous, I was worried, I was concerned this new business I'd started wasn't gonna work, it wasn't gonna make it. It was my dream. I went to school for business marketing, and it was my dream to be a business owner. It's what I wanted to do. And I found myself kind of staring down the barrel of a business maybe failing. And I, like many of you have done, decided that, you know what, it can't fail, right? When you have that mindset, that goes a long way. But I remembered what a mentor had shared with me. I had a mentor from South Florida who had a very successful pressure washing business, and he had actually shared with me some strategies on how to grow my business using digital marketing. And we had some conversations, we talked a little bit, and he shared with me some strategies I needed to implement into my business. So this week, before this job I went to, I stayed up really late that night, pulled an all-nighter, and was working on some marketing strategies that he had been coaching me on to implement into my business, okay? The next morning, I got myself ready. I loaded the trailer up, went to this job. Like I said, what happened to me on this job, I'll never forget it. It was about a 6-hour job for me to complete. About halfway through the job, I found myself tired. It was hot. I needed a drink of water. And I had set down my pressure washing wand. I carried a big bleach pail around with me. It was about a 5-gallon bleach pail. I set it down, and I was going to walk back to the truck and go get me a drink of water from the truck. So I head back to the truck. And as I got to the truck, I could, the pressure washing machines were roaring. It's loud. As I got to the truck, I looked into my cab, and I saw my phone sitting there. And there's a bunch of notifications going on my phone. So I opened the door up. I leaned in my truck, grabbed my phone. As I brought my phone closer, I saw people were asking me for quote requests. People were asking me, hey, can you come to my house today and give me a quote on the pressure washing job? Oh, lost my slide. There we go. So I was wondering to myself, what had happened? What's going on? How are people all of a sudden reaching out to me, right? I had several voicemails on my phone. I had been washing the house all morning. I wasn't hanging door hangers, wasn't passing out business cards. I was working, and I had people reaching out to me, I had leads reaching out to me. And in that moment is when it hit me that the things I had stayed up building and implementing into my business that night actually were generating leads for me while I was out working, doing what I needed to do in my operation. And that's when it struck me that what my mentor had shared with me had actually paid off huge dividends for me in my operation. So over the next several months, I continued to implement these things. Eventually, I ranked, on Google as the first pressure washing business in my area. That led to me being able to scale my business to multiple service vehicles. I hired several employees, and I was eventually able to actually sell that business. Was great for me. I did marketing for the rest of my career and started farming through COVID. And thank you for sharing that, Shad. I don't consider myself a rancher, but we do sell a little bit direct. And through my experiences, I'm here with you guys today. But the thing that I want to highlight with you guys, and the question I have for you, is have you ever had a time when a mentor shared something with you in your life, and that mentor had been where you wanted to be? And they actually, when you put to work what they shared with you, it saved you all the time and the money that they had probably spent to get to where they needed to be. And when you implemented that, you were able to speed up your journey to get to where you wanted to be. Have any of you experienced that in here? Get another thumbs up for y'all? Awesome. If you haven't experienced that, that's what the value of a mentorship is, that you can speed up the time and the money to get you to where you want to be. Now today, I have 4 pillars that I want to share with you that are foundational to a system that I developed to help you predict predictable success in your direct-to-consumer business. And it's my objective to act as your mentor, to share with you the roadmap of what you need to be doing in your operation to save you the last 15 years I've spent doing digital marketing and a lot of money that I've spent in that time period. So pillar number 1 for you guys is going to be selling at a profitable price point. Now this is key. I have a question for you. Let me ask you guys a question real quick, if you would raise a hand. How many of you guys sold beef direct to consumer or lamb direct to consumer in the last year? Awesome. When you guys came up with the pricing for your beef or your lamb, how'd you do it? Please, first of all, don't tell me you looked at Walmart or the supermarkets and tried to compare your single animal source beef with the pink slime that has DNA from thousands of animals sitting on the shelf at Walmart. Just don't tell me that's where you started. You may have looked at the guy down the road who was selling beef and said, hey, you know what? I could be $1 more than him, $1 less than him, and kind of gauged where you were based off of that. Or a slightly better one, you looked up the USDA report on direct-to-consumer beef sales and you decided that you'd settle into a middle, upper range of that. Any of you guilty of that in here? Can I get a hand up? Oh, nobody guilty of that. Everyone, I got one over here. Thank you for that. So if you've done that, what I like to say is kind of like cheating on a class paper, right? It's kind of like looking at the answers of somebody else. So a lot of you guys didn't raise your hand, so I know a lot of you guys know your cost of operation, and you're pricing that into profit for your beef. That's exactly the first key to having success in direct consumers, knowing that you have a profitable operation. What I tell all my clients is that your price is your price, meaning that the price it costs you to produce what you produce, every little thing, diesel fuel, live animal costs, feed cost, internet bill, fencing, materials, all of it is your operational cost, and we want, at a minimum, you to have a 20% profit margin on top of that, at a minimum. If you're not at a 20% profit margin, it's really hard for you to be sustainable long-term in direct-to-consumer sales. We'd like you to be at 30, 35%. So this is a goal baseline. Do you guys see and understand how this works? You guys get this? Pretty simple stuff, but it's really important as we get into pillar number 2 and 3 here. So if you said, but hey, if I price my beef at this price, if I actually took in all those numbers of production, nobody would buy it. Couldn't get anyone to buy that. That's exactly what we're going to do as we talk about pillar number 2 and 3. When you target the right customers and you communicate to them the right way, they will happily pay your prices that you need to be charging to be profitable, that actually can separate you, decouple you from the cattle market so you can charge your prices. Remember, your price is your price, not your neighbor's price, not the Walmart price, the price you need to be charging to be profitable. So recap, what is the first pillar of a successful direct-to-consumer business? Selling at a profitable price point. Now, we've developed a pricing calculator. It's pretty cool. It's exactly what it is, a calculator where you can input all of your operational cost. We've got different categories for everything in there. You can input all of them, and it will give you actually a per head basis that you should be charging at about a 25% profit margin, again, as a baseline to get an idea of where you guys should be in your pricing. I'm going to give you guys my personal cell phone number at the end of this presentation. If you guys would like this pricing calculator, just text me and I'll send it over to you. So when you get your numbers right, you actually take back a piece of control. I talked about decoupling from the cattle market. So when I talk about getting back a piece of control, you gain that when you get your prices right. You actually get to dictate your own prices and not have a market dictate the prices you get for the hard work that you do. That's manipulated ultimately by the Big Four. So remember, I'm an independent business owner, not a big ag producer. So pillar number 2 here is targeting the right customers. There was a dad who had a son, and his son had recently graduated school. The dad wanted to get his son a graduation gift. So what did the dad do? He had a car. It was a really old car he wanted to give to his son for graduation. But he said, son, before I give you this car, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to take this car. I want you to go to the used car dealer and go ask them what they would give you for this car. Son says, okay, Dad, no problem. took the car over to the used car dealer, and the used car dealer told him, this car's pretty beat up. It's in rough shape. I'll give you $5,000 for the car. Son goes back to the dad, says, Dad, they told me to give me $5,000 for that car. Okay, son, sounds good. Why don't you do me a favor and take that car down to the pawn shop and ask them what they'd give you for the car. Says, okay. Goes down to the pawn shop, shows the car to the guys there. And they said, look, this thing, it's seen better days. It's rough, needs a lot of work. We'd give you $1,000 for it. Said, okay, Dad. Okay, said okay to the pawn shop guys. Brings it back to his dad. Said, hey, Dad, pawn shop guys said they give me $1,000 for the car. So the dad goes, okay, I want you to do one more thing for me. Take that car down to the car show. Take it to the car club. They're putting on a car show today. Go walk around and ask how much they'd give you for that car. Son says, okay, Dad. Takes the car down to the car show and shows it around. And he actually has someone come offer him $100,000 for the car because it was a classic Corvette. So he brings the car back home to his dad and says, Dad, you wouldn't believe it. Someone offered me $100,000 for that car you gave me. And he said, son, that's the right customers will always value you the right way. So the moral of this story is the right customers will value what it is that you produce. There's three main factors that decide what people buy and the food they buy and why they make those decisions. Okay, so number one would be price. Number two would be the quality. Number three would be if they trust that food, where it came from, who grew it, and or the potential health benefits that that food could provide them. So we're going to cover each one of these. Number one being price. Now this customer I talked about, the pink slime sitting on the shelf at Walmart. This customer would not look at anything you produce, right? Your pack of ranch raised beef next to the pink slime, they wouldn't look at them any differently. They don't care. They're going to want to buy the one that's cheaper. These are discount shoppers, right? They're not willing to spend the extra dollar. So these are not the customers that we want to be targeting and or ultimately they don't value our product. Another reason people buy the food they buy would be quality. These are customers that are willing to spend more if something's of a higher quality, right? I think it makes a lot of sense. I think you guys would do the same thing. You guys probably willing to spend more for a tractor or really willing to spend more for a certain truck if it provided better quality for you or was a better piece of equipment. So the last one is the trust and potential health benefits. These customers are willing to spend more money for something that they trust. If there's transparency, they know where it came from. They have a relationship with you, and they're also willing to spend more money on something that helps them live a healthier lifestyle. Now, I want to give you guys an example of this. Once we understand the things that the right customers value in us, we've got to start to look at who these people are, okay? There's a lot of people that can fit into this category, but I think you guys would all agree that you only have so much time in the day, and marketing's an extra thing to do. And if we're going to spend time doing marketing, we need to spend time marketing to the right people. So I want to show you guys some examples of that. And you might already know this. They're probably not your neighbors. Especially you guys live in rural communities. Just happens to be the way that typically the people that value trust and the potential health benefits of a product typically live in suburbs. They live in the city. They're maybe not your neighbors. So things like shipping and digital marketing are the tools that can actually help you guys get your products to the right people that value it. So an example of the right customer would be women. Now, this is an example, okay? There's a lot of different crowds, what we call right customers or target customers, right, for your business, but women's a really good one. In particular, not just women, if we want to get really specific, let's say moms, okay? Why moms? Because moms are the ones who typically buy food. They're the ones going to the grocery store. They're the ones making the decision of what the family's eating. They're the ones that are cooking the food. They're the ones most often who are concerned about the health of the family that they're raising. So you don't have time to market to everybody. So I'm going to ask you guys, if we have a limited amount of time, what would be better for us to do? Spend 20, 30 minutes thinking of something we can write out on Facebook to send to our friends and our aunts and uncles and everyone sees it and people we know in the community, or seek out a homeschool co-op full of moms that value the trust, that's a concern of theirs, where their food comes from. They value they're feeding their family healthy beef. You seek out that homeschool co-op, you make a relationship, you go there, do a presentation, you give them some beef away, you make a connection with 50 moms, 100 moms that care about where their food comes from. They have concerns over trust, and they'd feel really good if they had a freezer full of beef that they could make meals for their family with. So if we don't have enough time to do marketing, we got to make sure that we're marketing to the right people to be effective with our time. So who is the right customer? The one who values what it is that you produce. I want to ask you guys a question. If you had 1,000 email contacts of potential customers on a list of the right customers. So we talked about moms. I'm going to keep using this example all throughout the presentation. If we had 1,000 customer contacts of those homeschool moms, what do you think that would do for your operation? If you had 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, if you had 10,000 contacts of moms all throughout this country, from Oklahoma City to the East Coast to the West Coast, we had moms that valued what it is you produced on a list that when you wanted to, you could send out emails to, you could send out text messages to, let them know that you had a processing date coming up. What do you think that would do for your operation? I'll tell you what we see all the time. We see 1,000 customer contacts equaling over $100,000 in retail sales. Now, this is not a random 1,000 customer contacts. These are the right customers, okay? So these, again, are people that value the quality and or the trust and potential health benefits like I talked about earlier. Are you guys tracking this? See some head nods? Good. So the way this breaks down, if you're selling whole and half beef deposits, all you need is 25 to 50 people, okay? So that's 2.5 to 5% of this list that are actually converted into customers. And so there's a range there because it depends if they're buying a whole deposit or a half deposit. That's just 25 head at $4,500 per head to reach these numbers. Now, let's talk about what's on the table for selling direct. We recently had a client come on board with us who produced 400 head per year. Before, their operation was centered around, a wholesale operation. They were selling 400 head at $2,400 a head. Now, this is a little while back. These numbers aren't, I know they change and fluctuate a little regional, but this was a couple months ago. So at that time, they were producing $960,000 worth there at a 7% margin, okay? So all they did was diversify their operation with us. They didn't sell everything they had direct to consumer, but they were able to diversify about 50% of their operation, which turned out to be 200 head at the same $2,400 you can see there. So that's half the operation that stayed the same. The other half of the operation, 200 head at $4,500. That was $900,000 at a 20% margin. That was almost as much as they produced before when all 400 were just at the price before. And you can see at the bottom there, take-home money on those profit margins. The $70,000 became afterwards almost $215,000. So that's obviously a big deal and could impact your operation if you start to think about the money that's left on the table year after year after year to implement some of these strategies. So to recap, what's the number one way for you to get more sales? Focus on the right customers. How can I say that's the number one way? We just talked about it. Because if we only have so much time and we want to be effective with our marketing, we got to make sure that we're focusing on those right customers. Now, pillar number 3 is something that before I had this figured out, it really caused me to struggle in a lot of different things I did. And if you guys can get down pillar number 3, I promise that it will change the way that you sell anything for the rest of your life. So here it is. Pillar number 3 is selling solutions and not products. When I heard that for the first time, I had no idea what it meant. I actually had to hear this 2 or 3 times before I fully understood this concept. And the concept here is positioning our beef in a way to help customers actually achieve their biggest goals and desires. Now you might be thinking to yourself, how can my beef help my customers reach their goals and desires? I'm going to give you guys some examples of that today. So what do we think the mom's biggest problems are? Talk about moms. That was the example. What's for dinner, I heard. What's for dinner? Does mom have anything else going on in her life before she gets asked that question? Yeah, absolutely. Everyone needs her attention. The kids, the husband, her friends, family. Maybe she works another job around the house, but dinner's still got to get ready. She's busy. So how can we take our beef and market it to her? Again, I talked about going to that homeschool co-op. You go to that homeschool co-op. How can you communicate to those moms at that homeschool co-op about your beef in a way that helps them achieve and solve the biggest problems that they have? That's selling solutions. So we have different outlets to sell. I talked about at a co-op, so we're in person talking. We could be talking about social media, so content that we're creating, email marketing, or even the copy on a website. Okay, so if we said something like this, "Are you tired of beef you can't trust?" When you make a deposit for our whole and half beef today, you secure 100% USA born and raised beef for your family freezer in 2024. So what we're doing here is we're trying to position our beef as a solution to some of those problems that mom has. Let me tell you this, when we do that successfully, your beef is no longer just beef to her. It's not just a pack of beef in the freezer, right? When she thinks about your beef, she goes, "Oh, it feels so good." When there's a busy day, I had a lot going on, but I can reach into that freezer, grab a pack of ground beef, I can thaw it out quickly. I know it's always there from somebody I trust, from a rancher I trust and know, and I can put together a quick, easy meal for my family, and it was healthy. We just solved all the problems for that mom, right? I'm not saying we solved every problem in her life, but we solved some really big problems for that mom. And when we can do that, now she's not just thinking about our beef as beef. She thinks about that beef as a way to actually make her life easier, right? And when we can do that, to her, that beef now becomes priceless. So I started, guys, talking to you about how, number one, we got to sell at a profitable price point. We got to target the right customers, okay? But we have to communicate to them the right way. When we do that, it doesn't matter if our beef's $6.99, $7.99, $8.99, $10.99 a pound. Whatever price it is that we need to be charging to be profitable, they're happily going to pay that price because of what it does for them. Now, this is a small mindset shift. I just kind of explained this to you guys, but when you do this well, the prices you need to charge, no one's ever going to question them because of what it is that your product does for them. Remember, if you guys repeat this with me one more time, I'm an independent business owner, not a big ag producer. Appreciate it. Now, I want to be sure you guys have an idea of how all this fits together. We'll talk a little bit about strategies, but all of these things fit together in some core digital marketing infrastructure. Unless all your friends and family are buying all the beef that you want to be selling direct to consumer, as we talked about earlier, the right customers may not be your neighbor. So you need things like digital marketing infrastructure to reach people that don't live in your area. So pretty simple stuff, all stuff you've heard of before, right? A website that has e-commerce capabilities, email marketing, paid advertising, social media. There's a whole lot more. And each one of those we could do a technical presentation on about best practices, best platforms, best things to do, best strategies for each different one of those platforms. But the thing that I want you guys to walk away with is that regardless, you need a good digital marketing strategy. Now, I'm sure you guys probably can't see this too well. That's okay. But this is the direct farm roadmap strategy that we use with a lot of our clients. And essentially what we have here is a flow chart. Okay, we have cold inbound leads over here on the left where you see the blue, and they're coming through what we call a customer journey. Now, there's a lot of different things on this customer journey. There's websites, there's landing pages. Landing pages are websites. They're just designed to sell better than websites. And there's all this technical jargon inside the marketing world when we talk about digital marketing infrastructure, okay? We're trying to take these cold leads, build connection with them by telling your story so they feel connected to you. And then once they come into our system and we can collect some contact information from them, we're continuing to market to them over and over. Once they visit our website, there's a thing called a Facebook pixel. I know a lot of you guys might think Facebook ads don't work, and that might be because you've spent money on Facebook ads to people that don't know who you are. But once someone comes to your website, we're able to track them. If you guys ever been on your phone, you go to a website, and then all of a sudden you see an ad for the website you're on, it's because they had a Facebook pixel they tracked you on, okay? So if we can actually run ads for people that have seen our stuff before, they already know about us, we have a lot better chance to sell to them. So this is a digital marketing strategy. I know it's a lot, and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds about this, but I want you guys to know that when you have the right things in place, a lot of things can start to happen on autopilot for you. I told you guys the story earlier about how I was pressure washing that house, and I was actually getting leads while I was on the job. When we set the right tools up, CRM is an example of one. It's just one of the tools in a digital marketing strategy, but it is a customer relationship management software that exists so you don't have to be going through your contact list every time you want to reach out to people, let them know you got a whole and half beef ready, you got bundles ready, or you're doing a discount, okay? It can let you manage all your contacts at one time. You can send out mass emails and texts. You can track who's ordered what in the past. You're not keeping it on your phone. You're not keeping it in a Rolodex. You can auto-send emails on repetitive conversations you have. So if you guys are always talking about the cut sheet, or how does it work picking up, right? What cuts do I need to get? How does it work with you guys? When do I come pick my beef up I just ordered? All those things, you don't need to be having those conversations. You can put systems in place so that those things are happening automatically for you. So when you have the right tools and systems in place, you don't have to worry about things like inventory tracking, keeping up with your customers, keeping up with your orders. You don't have to start to worry about those things. So it's not that you don't have enough time to deal with your customers, it's that you don't have the right tools and systems in place to do that automatically. When you invest in the systems like this, you can actually buy back your time by having marketing happen for you while you spend your time where you're needed most in your operation. Now, if you've been sitting here wondering to yourself, I have no idea what he was talking about, have no idea what that flow chart meant, have no idea how to even get started with implementing any of the digital marketing tactics, that's exactly what we do with my company. So the company that I own is Direct Farm Marketing, and that's what we do is we actually build your marketing infrastructure for you. So we set up everything so that you can continue to ranch and work where you're needed most, not sit in front of a computer and learn all the ins and outs of digital marketing. We build and optimize your website. We set it up so it'll track the right customers that we talked about earlier. We write the emails. We help you with social media strategies to actually communicate with them properly, like we talked about, selling solutions and not products. So that those emails, we set up automations as well, so that those emails are going out while you're out there working. And we run and manage paid advertising, help you build your branding, do all the things that we just covered today is actually part of the services that we provide. So this is my personal cell phone number. It's 904-476-1257. I want you guys to do, if you're interested in potentially moving forward with what we do, I want you to text me your name and a good email for you. And the next steps with us is getting on a conversation with our advisors, learning a little bit about your operation, a little bit what you have going on, seeing if it makes sense for us to take the next steps in working together. Remember, you guys repeat this for me. This is the last one. I'm an independent business owner, not a big ag producer. So here's my number again, 904-476-1257. I will be in the back. I've got a booth out those doors to the left. You guys can come talk to me. We can have a conversation, but please text me. That way I don't miss you, don't get a chance to not talk to you. I won't be here tomorrow. I do have that pricing calculator. Something I also forget to mention during the presentation is we have a shipping guide that can help you walk through the ins and outs of shipping. How do you do it? How do you set up your packaging? How do you do any of that stuff? I'm happy to talk to any of you guys about your marketing questions and dive into some of those strategies as well. But thank you guys so much. Thank you, RCAF, for having me. I really appreciate it. It's really been awesome to see you guys all be here today investing in such an awesome community. So thank you guys.